Epilogue. Seattle, November 29th, 1996. 270 feet. Now I dream of the soft touch of women, the songs of birds, the smell of soil crumbling between my fingers, and the brilliant green of plants that I diligently nurture. I'm looking for land to buy, and I will sow it with deer and wild pigs and birds and cottonwoods and sycamores and build a pond, and the ducks will come and fish will rise in the early evening light and take the insects into their jaws. There will be paths through this forest, and you and I will lose ourselves in the soft curves and folds of the ground. We will come to the water's edge and lie on the grass, and there will be a small, unobtrusive sign that says, "This is the real world, muchachos, and we are all in it." B. Traven. Charles Bowden, Blood Orchid. Several people who were on Everest last may have told me they've managed to move beyond the tragedy. In mid-November, I received a letter from Lou Kasich in which he wrote, "It took a few months in my case for the positive aspects to begin to develop. But they have. Everest was the worst experience in my life. But that was then. Now is now. I'm focusing on the positive. I learned some important things about life, others, and myself. I feel I now have a clearer perspective on life. I see things today I never saw before." Lou had just returned from spending a weekend with Beck Weathers in Dallas. Following his helicopter evacuation from the Western Cum, Beck had his right arm amputated halfway, below the elbow. All four fingers and the thumb on his left hand were removed. His nose was amputated and reconstructed with tissue from his ear and forehead. Lou mused that visiting Beck was both sad and triumphant. It hurts to see Beck like this. Rebuilt nose, facial scars, disabled for life, Beck wondering if he can practice medicine again, and the like. But it was also remarkable to see how a man can accept all this and be ready to move on in life. He is conquering this. He will be victorious. Beck had only nice things to say about everyone. Beck doesn't play the blame game. You may not have shared political views with Beck, but you would share my pride in seeing how he has handled this. Somehow, someday, this will net out in a positive way for Beck. I'm heartened that Beck, Lou, and others are apparently able to look at the positive side of the experience, and envious. Perhaps after more time has passed, I, too, will be able to recognize some greater good that's resulted from so much suffering, but right now, I can't. As I write these words, half a year has passed since I returned from Nepal, and on any given day during those 6 months, no more than 2 or 3 hours have gone by in which Everest hasn't monopolized my thoughts. Not even in sleep is there respite. Imagery from the climb and its aftermath continues to permeate my dreams. After my article about the expedition was published in the September issue of Outside, the magazine received an unusually large volume of mail about the piece. Much of the correspondence offered support and sympathy for those of us who had returned, but there was also an abundance of scathingly critical letters. For example, a lawyer from Florida admonished, "All I can say is that I agree with Mr. Krakauer when he said, 'My actions, or failure to act, played a direct role in the death of Andy Harris.' I also agree with him when he says, 'A mere 350 yards, lying inside a tent, doing absolutely nothing. I don't know how he can live with himself.'" Some of the angriest letters, and by far the most disturbing to read, came from relatives of the deceased. Scott Fisher's sister, Lisa Fisher-Lukenbach, wrote, "Based on your written word, you certainly seem now to have the uncanny ability to know precisely what was going on in the minds and hearts of every individual on the expedition. Now that you are home, alive and well, you have judged the judgments of others, analyzed their intentions, behaviors, personalities, and motivations. You have commented on what should have been done by the leaders, the Sherpas, the clients, and have made arrogant accusations of their wrongdoing. All according to John Krakauer, who, after sensing the doom brewing, scrambled back to his tent for his own safety and survival. Perhaps catch a glimpse of what you are doing by seeming to know everything. You have already been wrong with your speculation of what happened to Andy Harris, causing much grief and anguish to his family and friends. And now you have repudiated the character of Lopsang with your tattletale accounts of him. What I am reading is your own ego frantically struggling to make sense out of what happened. No amount of your analyzing, criticizing, judging, or hypothesizing will bring the peace you are looking for. There are no answers. No one is at fault. No one is to blame. Everyone was doing their best at the given time under the given circumstances. No one intended harm for one another. No one wanted to die. This latter missive was especially upsetting because I received it soon after learning that the list of victims had grown to include Lobsang Jangbu. In August, after the retreat of the monsoon from the high Himalaya, Lobsang had returned to Everest to guide a Japanese climb up the South Col and Southeast Ridge route. On September 25th, as they were ascending from Camp 3 to Camp 4 to launch their summit assault, a slab avalanche engulfed Lobsang, another Sherpa, and a French climber just below the Geneva Spur and swept them down the Lhotse face to their deaths. Lobsang left behind a young wife and a 2-month-old baby in Kathmandu.